The crypto market just crashed. Now, this is not the first time that we have gone through something like this, and it doesn't really call for much concern if we have been, through something similar in the past. For those that are new, yes, I know that this could be very concerning because right now you're probably thinking, well, this is the end of crypto. Everything's going to zero. Crypto's done. It's dead in the water. However, we've gone through many of these similar events in the past. To really confirm things, yeah, we are in a bear market, but I don't think that this is going to be a bear market like we've witnessed in the past. I actually think that this time around it's completely different, and I would argue that we're closer to the bottom than what most people assume. Now, I will outline exactly what's happening here. I will also outline if this is the typical 4-year structure, what we should be looking at going forward next for Bitcoin, and how to prepare for this. Let's first start off with, of course, the fear and greed index, because we just hit 5. That's right. Extreme fear at 5. If there was ever a time in this market to be a long-term accumulator, now is the moment. And what better way to prepare for your long-term bags than jumping into an IRA account through iTrust Capital with prices as low as they are right now throughout the market. And yes, I know it's a shameless plug. However, listen, if we're thinking about how disruptive crypto really is, why not prepare for your long-term holdings through an IRA account where you can get tax advantages? You could do this with iTrust Capital. There's going to be a link down in the description below as well as in the comments below. And if you deposit $1,000, you get a free $100 bonus today. So what are you guys waiting for? Go check it out. You won't be disappointed. But let's think about crypto right now because, yeah, it's very concerning in this market when we are seeing prices as low as they are. For an example, the total crypto market cap just lost the April 2025 lows, and we're back down to the lowest point since going all the way back to even October of 2024, wiping out all of the gains from November of 2024 all the way through even December of 2024 and even January of 2025. This is wild. But this is the ride that you signed up for when you jumped into a volatile market like crypto. Now, is this the end of the world? Absolutely not. What exactly happened today? Well, let's first start off with, of course, the liquidations, because liquidations are always a major issue when it comes back to, a market like crypto that is running on thin liquidity and over leveraged traders. We have here from Ash Crypto breaking 1 trillion wiped out from US stocks. That's right. US stocks also dropped in a big way today. And then also $330 billion wiped out from crypto today. A lot of this is due to liquidations. Now with, crypto itself, we have been in a downtrend since going all the way back to October 10th. We have over here from the Kabaisi letter, what is happening in crypto? Since October 10th, crypto markets are down 50%, erasing $2.2 trillion worth of market cap. Bitcoin has officially erased all of its post-election rally, now down 10% since Trump's election. Why is it crashing? Let us explain. So right off the rip, we have, as of 8 a.m. ET today, yesterday, Bitcoin has officially erased its post-election rally. Yet, over the last 60 days, the fundamental picture for crypto is actually vastly unchanged. This is why many investors are confused. Why is crypto crashing if the fundamental picture is unchanged? Because again, nothing really has changed around crypto. In fact, a lot of things are improving drastically. So we are wondering, why the hell is prices dropping so much? Well, we have down here that the answer to this question requires going back to October 10th. The most recent top in crypto came on October 6th, just 4 days before the $19.5 billion record liquidation. Something structural appears to have shifted on October 10th, and markets never truly recovered. And yeah, we've talked about this even with stocks, with gold and silver. Every other market was going absolutely insane, but crypto. And by the way, it wasn't just crypto that sold off on October 10th. Throughout October 6th leading up to October 10th, pretty much all markets were, down a bit, but they bounced back violently. Crypto, however, just continued to chop and do absolutely nothing during that entire time. So they never really recovered. But then between November 15th and January 15th, Bitcoin was entirely range bound. However, we would see brief periods of liquidations with gaps in both directions. This was yet another sign of the structural collapse in crypto. Finally, the range broke to the downside on January 16th. And this was the concerning thing because we started to regain significant momentum. However, we never got that weekly candle close over 97K that we were looking for, which is why we need to watch for those weekly candle closes. Now, if we're also looking at price action, it was pretty rough leading into this drop. And again, sentiment was also absolutely dead. If previous crypto cycles have taught us anything, it's the sentiment is what really matters, right? And the sentiment was peak negative. As seen below, sentiment has traded in a near straight line lower since October 10th. Even relief rallies failed to shift sentiment. The result is massive virtuous cycle shifting from liquidations to sentiment deterioration and back. Since January 24th, we have seen $10 billion worth of levered positions liquidated. That's 55% more of the record amount seen on October 10th. It's a structural decline. Further evidence of this being a structural decline is the spread of selling pressure into other asset classes. Large cap tech stocks are dropping sharply despite stronger earnings and little fundamental change. Liquidation gaps in crypto are carrying over into equities. Even more evidence that this is liquidity induced and structural in nature is market depth. Bitcoin's market depth, the capital available to absorb large orders, is still more than 30% below its October peak. Last time this happened was after the FTX collapse in 2022. This is why I believe that the bear market is closer, like the end of this bear market is closer than we actually think. Like everyone is still calling for 20K and 10K and things like that. I think that this is almost over. We have over here, today's decline was particularly noteworthy as Bitcoin fell over $9,000 and selling pressure was constant. At times, Bitcoin would fall $2,000+ in a matter of minutes. It seems that a large player, perhaps an institutional investor, sold/liquidated it during today's session. And we probably won't know until, at a later date. But the main thing here is the question becomes, when will crypto bottom? The answer to this question is when structural liquidity is restored. This will be a combination of both capitulation in price and leverage, as well as maximum bearish sentiment. We seem to be somewhat near that point. And this is also why, I think that we are closer to the bottom than what most people assume. Everyone is still expecting this to just continue to sell off for months on end, but I actually don't believe that that's the case. Now, I did warn about a few of these price swings. I didn't really warn too much about Bitcoin. The main thing that I was looking at with Bitcoin was losing the 74K level. I said once we lose that, we will most likely target the gap back in 2024. That would be between this, 49K to 73K level. This is a large gap. So again, to say oh, hey, we're probably going to retest between this range, it's not really an accurate depiction. And I can't, say oh, hey, I've been calling for this forever. No. We were only calling for it recently when we started to break down from the prior high after we failed to break over 97K on the weekly. But with XRP, I had this gap on XRP between $1.04 and $1.41 for a bit of time. I made a video going back, 6 days ago. So almost a whole week ago, I made this video regarding XRP and this, zone. This is what I said in that video. I'm going to play the video clip here for all of you just to, make sure that you guys can see exactly what I'm saying. And also to show you guys that I'm not lying to you. This is what I was talking about with XRP. If you bought the top here, yes, it's definitely concerning. However, I do think that we might have some deeper buy opportunities here. I don't know if we're going to go all the way down to this next key demand zone. It's definitely a possibility. But we are retesting the lows going back to April of 2025, which did mark the bottom back in 2025 for XRP to run all the way as high as $3.60. If we do maintain these lows, that's definitely going to be a great sign of strength on XRP. But if we do lose them, there's a possibility that we retest the prior demand zones going all the way back to November of 2024 and also the middle of November of 2024, which is right around $1.04 to $1.48. If we see this, then I do think that this is going to be a very big buy opportunity on XRP. And I do believe that this is our big buy opportunity because we just hit this range. And I even made a post on X. It's kind of comical. It's kind of not because again, a lot of people right now are scared to buy XRP. When XRP was pumping to, new highs, everyone was is now the time to buy? Because again, people will line up to buy XRP at $3.50, $2.50, $2. But when XRP drops into this range, nobody wants to buy. They're too scared. And I said that this is why a lot of, crypto investors will lose money. They want to buy the hype and excitement, but never want to buy the fear and panic, because right now, nobody knows if Bitcoin's going to go to the next range here. I mean, we lose this 59.6K level, which I would argue it's just this gap between 49.3K and 59.4K. It's a large gap, right? We're talking about a $10,000 difference here. But we lose that and we're going down to 38K. But again, that's why you have to be greedy when everyone is fearful. We just hit 5. Extreme fear on the fear and greed index. 5. We just witnessed Bitcoin over just the last 3 weeks. We're talking about a drop of 39%. Total drop here, 53%. XRP is down from its previous high. Currently, 65, almost 66%. The total drop here was almost 69% on XRP. If I was looking at buying XRP or accumulating for the long term, or maybe even investing into it for my IRA account, today would be the day that I would be looking at adding to my position. Because again, this is where everyone would be extremely fearful. Right now, everyone is terrified of investing into crypto. Nobody even wants to talk about crypto. Nobody even wants to touch crypto. This is why it's very important to look at the market dynamic and look at the sentiment. Now, if we are following the 4-year cycle, if this is officially our bear market beginning, then yeah, I think that we could easily hit this 38K region. Because if we go back to previous times in this market, the average drop here on Bitcoin. So last cycle, 77%, previous cycle to that, about 84%. It's a little bit lower each cycle because of how much more capital is involved. I would argue about 70% would be our bottom here. So about 37, 38K within that range. The main thing that I would be looking at with Bitcoin is just the overall support zone on Bitcoin. So the key range would be around roughly 33.8K to about 38.5K. This would be a total drop of about 73, 74%, 70 to 74%. That would be the gap on Bitcoin. So that's what I would be watching for if this is the typical 4-year cycle and we're going into a deeper bear market for months on end. But I don't believe that that is the case. And I think that, the Kabaisi letter with this breakdown really outlines that, because again, it feels as if we have been in a deep bear market for a very long time. Because although, yes, Bitcoin made a new high back in October, XRP's previous high was back in July. Most altcoins, by the way, if we're thinking about this, I talked about this even with Solana. I talked about it with multiple altcoins as well. Most of their tops were hit back in January of 2025. We have been just selling off on a lot of these altcoins for well over 385 days. I know that that's not the typical time frame on bear market lows. It's about 420 days from the top to the bottom here. And we might sell off a little bit more into March. I just believe that the bear market bottom is pretty much already in. We might have a little bit more pain, maybe for another month, but I feel like we're closer to the bottom than what most people are assuming. And it's going to surprise a lot of people because, again, even bulls were surprised by this. I was surprised. I was wrong. I was incorrect on a lot of things here because, again, it's just so... It's so weird. This cycle is so different than every other cycle in the past, which if that's the case, then the bear market will also be completely different. But that's also why we take profits on the way up and we make sure to build out a stablecoin position on the side, which is why right now, anyone out there that is watching this, the best way to prepare for bear markets, the best way to prepare for anything is taking initial investments out, stacking stablecoins on the sidelines, throughout the bull run. That way we could wait a little bit of time until the bear market lows are officially hit. We start to see, a floor being built out, and then we could enter in with size. But right now, I would argue that this is a buy opportunity. Just like I said in my video from almost a week ago where XRP was trading at $1.75, I said, you know, this is probably going to be the next key level if we start to lose support. We lost support and now we, you know, just hit those ranges. Fear and greed at 5. I mean, I would be shocked if we weren't already bottomed out. And I would just be shocked if we're not close to the bottom here. Again, I just feel like this is, you know, closer to being over than what most people assume. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video.